Here's how you can take any generic AI design and turn it into something that feels much more premium. This layout was entirely generated using Gemini 3.1 inside Aura. And the interesting part is that with this workflow, you really don't need to be an experienced designer to achieve good results. Both of these templates were created using the exact same process. So let me show you how it works. First, we start with a base. And the idea is to keep it simple. We just need a layout to begin with. You could also start completely from scratch, but that usually takes longer because you have to figure out the whole structure. One technique I really like is image to HTML. Inside Aura, just click on the @ icon, select your image, and then write a simple prompt like recreate this layout. AI models are actually very good at turning an image into a solid structural foundation. For this demo, the image I use comes from this website, apollo.io. I wasn't trying to copy the design exactly, I just wanted a clean, well-structured layout to use as inspiration. So this will be my starting point. After the first prompt, we get the top half of the layout, and as you can see, it's already pretty close to the original structure. Next, I generate the bottom part with a second prompt. I like to work this way because if you give the AI a very large task, like generating an entire page from one big screenshot, the result can be sometimes less accurate. Breaking it into smaller steps usually gives much better results. By the way, if you ever want to capture a full image of a website, here's a useful trick. In Safari, you can go to File, Save As, and export the page as a PNG image. This lets you capture the entire page in one clean image instead of taking multiple screenshots. Last time I've checked, Chrome still doesn't have this option built in. So after just 2 prompts, we already have a strong layout foundation. And this saves a huge amount of time compared to generating everything from scratch. Now that we have a base, we can start refining and transforming into something much more premium. Now let's move on to the next step. Type this following prompt. Adapt the styling from this component. Then insert the @ symbol so you can reference a specific element directly inside your prompt. That reference is what drives the transformation. Instead of manually describing every design detail, you simply reference a beautifully designed component and the AI will handle the rest. So now I have my reference component, and here is the original component. You have the full code for that section along with a clear preview of how it looks. Now let's click enter and see what happens. This is really what makes Aura so powerful when generating high-end layouts. It comes with a massive library of well-designed components that you can borrow style from. And thanks to the reference feature, you can guide the AI very precisely. If you look at the prompt, you can see that we simply reference the component, and that was enough for the AI to understand the styling direction. Now let's look at the first iteration. With just one prompt, we've taken our original layout, which came from a simple screenshot, and transformed it into a completely new design style. And honestly, if you're not experienced with design, this kind of workflow can make you look like you are. But let's try again with another component just to make sure this wasn't a one-time success. So I'll reference another component and run the exact same prompt. Here's the original component, and here's the first iteration applied to our layout. It's honestly impressive what AI can do here. Without this workflow, trying to recreate the same kind of layout transformation manually would take much more time and a lot of design experience to assemble everything into something that actually looks good. Here's another example I've generated. You can also reference a full page template instead of a single component. But in my experience, referencing one strong component is often enough. The AI will usually adapt that style across the rest of your layout. Here's another component that I really like, especially the colors, the shadows, the depth, and the glow effect. And here's the result after applying it to our layout. So this is the first iteration, and I've liked the style so much that I've decided to turn it into a pro template, the one that you saw at the beginning of the video. If you want to explore it further, I'll leave the link in the description. Here's another component I like a lot. By the way, all the components I use here were designed by Mengto, an experienced designer with over 20 years of experience and also the creator of Aura. And when you look at these components, they don't feel AI generated at all. They feel like something a real designer crafted. Now here's the result after applying that style. The AI adapts everything surprisingly well. The depth, the shadows, the color choices, the typography, and it keeps everything consistent across the layout. For the last example, I chose a component with a slightly more futuristic style, and here's the result. So this technique works almost every time. The key is simply finding a beautiful component, something that doesn't have that typical generic AI look, and using it as a styling reference. Now let's explore another way to create your base layout if you don't want to start from an image. This time I'm starting directly from a prompt. For example, I wrote something like design a modern SaaS landing page for an AI workflow operating system called Command Layer. And then I added a few specific details about the section I wanted. So this is the first iteration. So as you can see, it's pretty basic. But at this stage, we just want a foundation. Now let's try something a little bit different. Starting from the first version, I'm going to replace the hero section and insert several components from the library, even if they don't match at all. I'm doing this on purpose to demonstrate that this workflow still works, even if your layout is assembled from completely different designs. So here we have an animated hero section, a feature section with rounded card component, an animated section in dark mode, and finally a social proof section followed by a CTA. So now we have 5 completely different sections that clearly don't match each other. Earlier, I showed you how we could transform a layout by referencing a specific component. But this time, I'll try something slightly different. Instead of referencing a component, I'll prompt a specific style and ask the AI to adapt the whole layout. The result isn't bad. It kept some element from the hero styling, but it didn't fully match the colors or the typography. At least it made everything more consistent across the page. But we can definitely do better. So instead, I'll apply the same technique we used earlier. I'll reference the Skeuomorphic style component and apply it to our entire layout. Let's see what happens. And again, it's pretty amazing. With just one prompt and the right component reference, we can transform almost any layout and give it a much more premium look. Remember where we started? We had a bunch of random components that didn't match each other at all, and now we have a layout that feels coherent and refined. From here, the process becomes much more straightforward. The goal is no longer to create the design, it's just to refine it section by section. First, I've changed the navigation. Instead of using a sticky menu, I switched to a fixed navigation bar aligned with the same width as the layout container. Then, in the hero section, I added a custom animation that I created using Unicorn Studios. Originally, I had a top and bottom animation, but it feels way too much, so I decided to remove the bottom one. And from there, you simply continue refining section by section, adjusting details until everything feels right. At this stage, the hardest part is already done because the main style is established. So refining the small details become much faster. And there isn't a perfect prompt for the final step. You still need to add your own content, tweak the details, and iterate until the layout looks exactly the way you want. And here's the final result. This also became another pro template that I created because I love that style so much. You saw the starting point. It was basically a mess of unrelated components. And now we have a polished template that feels much more premium and polished. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you have any question, feel free to contact me directly through my LinkedIn account. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.